Okay, start our morning meditation. No, I'm kidding. So hello, Susan.
Hey Jennifer, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I am good. No complaints.
So this is feeling like an early morning for me because I'm not a usual, you know, go do anything until noon-ish in these quarantine kind of new normal days. So,
Right.
but it's
Right.
great to see you, and I've looked forward to our conversation.
It is. It feels like it's the middle of the night. Right.
It's very different, isn't it?
It is.
So one of the things, we've been doing these recordings and live sessions. Ours is going to be recorded, but we've been doing live sessions on Thursdays, and we've had a lot of interest in all different topics and discussions, and we kind of just let it go as it may. I've known you for quite some time. I can't even remember when you became a Family Pause parent educator.
Maybe 2012, maybe.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so a while now.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you remember what at the time made you interested about Family Pause?
Oh my gosh, just the need for it. Just the need to prepare people, and then when they've had issues, just the need and my own desire to be able to intervene in a way that was helpful for them and could reduce their stress, frustration, keep everybody safe, keep the dog in their home.
Yeah, because it can be really challenging for new and expecting families certainly as they're preparing and they're thinking about what's ahead for their family dog. And then once baby arrives, it can be, it can go really smooth sometimes in the beginning, or it can be a little bumpy. And it's great to have a professional who has some expertise in that area. Sorry, my dog is enjoying a bone and it's going to be a little loud. Who has some expertise in that area and can really help to pinpoint and give suggestions that might be different than, what another trainer may offer, because we kind of specialize and pinpoint some different things that might be helpful.
It's been invaluable. On July 4th, I did a session with someone in Columbia, South Carolina, which is about 2 hours away. So it was great. We did the virtual session. Their daughter just started walking, and they have 2 Chihuahuas, and one of them is not really thrilled with her movement.
I can imagine.
More quickly. Yeah. So it's been great to have that skill set, that knowledge.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Okay. I have 2 amazing children. Alabachu is my son. He is 16, and he was adopted from Ethiopia when he was about 6 and a half, he would say. And then my daughter Tizib, who is 11, will turn 12 next month, and she was adopted at age 3. So, yeah, 2 separate adoptions, 2 separate stressful processes. So.
Wow, a lot of adjustment there. And did you find anything with the program was super helpful for as you went through the adoptions? Because I remember definitely as you were going through the process, I believe, and the waiting, and there were some there's always complications, isn't there? But I do remember that. But was there anything from the program that was helpful for you as you kind of transitioned with your son and daughter into your home?
Sure. I think one of the useful things that I had already learned and was able to implement was using containment spaces and management to keep the dogs and I'll explain what I mean by that, but keep them at a distance initially with my daughter, and so that she would not have to contend with them if she didn't want to. So with my son, who came first, obviously he's older, he's just an extroverted go-getter kind of a kid, and literally the second day he was with us, he was just curled up in a chair watching TV with one of our dogs, who was a Manchester Terrier. She's passed away, but Bree was just in his lap, and he was as happy as he could be, and not a little bit concerned, right? So that was surprising to us, but that was very easy. And so when Tizib came home, and I have told her this, and she may be able to hear me right now, I carried her she's a 3.5 years old. I carried her for about 6 weeks up and down the steps, stepping over baby gates. I held her all the time because if the dogs were near her, she would scream. You know,
Mhm.
if you tried to put her down near the dog, she would scream. And so understanding how to have safe spaces for the dogs where they could be content and she could relax and sort of decompress, you know, after
You could
coming
feel
into our
safe.
house.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, that was really invaluable, particularly, you know.
And that's so true because, especially with adoption, whether it's with infants or older children, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of
Right.
unknown. I'm an adoptee.
Mhm.
I know I was adopted at 10 months, and there was a lot of unknown that my family had to
Sure.
adjust to and experience and navigate around. And I think when you add dogs to the mix, you have to also put in the fact that this child could have some exposure that could make them fearful. That's a possibility.
Mhm.
Or really has never interacted or engaged with dogs. So those are possibilities. And, when I do work with adoption agencies and we do presentations, we really try to kind of tease out some of the possibilities of what could happen. But we have some general strategies for the dogs. You mentioned one of them, and one of them is like success stations and having management options, which is super, super helpful no matter what, as you're transitioning with whether it's a new baby, an older child, a teenager, an adult, another dog. It doesn't even matter. You have to have management and success stations in place so that everybody can gradually get to know one another in a really safe, most comfortable and positive environment. So
Right.
when you mention containment, I'm assuming you're referring to like success stations and
Absolutely.
having
Mhm.
that kind of separation.
Right, right. And having the dogs be okay with being, you know, set up in a certain type of success station, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's a baby gate or tether in a gate, that crate, another room, but having them be content. And I think that's something that's been valuable for preparing people who are going to have a
Yes.
baby, is making sure that they can be comfortable when they're alone. Right.
So comfortable can look like a lot of different things. So how do you know your dog is comfortable in that situation? Because that's something I think we don't talk enough about.
Mhm.
Is yes, we have a gate. And our dog might be behind it. And some of my concerns are, one of the things I do suggest people set up a camera and that we do view it
Yes.
together.
Hmm.
But one of my concerns is that people set up a success station and kind of say, okay, that's done. And they
Right.
shut off. So what do you look for sorry, Alexa's going. What do you look for to indicate that your dog's comfortable?
Right. So I would, if I were with a client right now, we would talk about the very, I mean, for us, they're basic, right? But the dog is not panting. Their respiration rate has dropped. They're sitting or lying down. If they're lying down, maybe they rolled onto a hip.
Yeah.
They're no longer solely watching, if they're able to see, right? They're no longer solely watching the owner move around. Maybe they're able to disengage,
Right.
right? um, and I love, wish that I had created licky mats. They're like my favorite thing in the entire world.
Yeah.
So they're able to focus maybe on a stuffed frozen marrowbone or a Kong or a licky mat. They're able to work on that. They're not distressed and not able to eat or work on their toy, work on their chew bone, work on their stuffed toy. They're yeah, they're not anxious to get out. They're not barking. They're not vocalizing. They're not jumping up on the gate if it's a gate. So I'm
Right.
sure you have probably can articulate that better, but that would be kind of the short version for me.
Yeah, so there's some lack of behavior, right? There's some
Exactly.
lack of anxiety, like stress pacing. There's,
Mhm.
there's, and there's more relaxed. I love the turn. I love when the dog can just go, back on their hip
Yeah.
and lay down. Sometimes there's that big sigh that they're like,
Yes.
okay, and they might do some things to just settle down, but they don't have to stay diligent, right? They don't
Right.
have to pay attention. Yeah, no, excellent. Because I do think sometimes we tend to miss those things, or we think they're doing really well, and it's like, well, maybe they're doing a lot of lip licking, or maybe they're licking that front paw, more than they usually do,
Mhm.
or scratching, or they've got one ear tuned into what's going on
Right.
over there. I see
Right.
that a lot.
Or their eyes are big.
Yeah,
Sorry.
their eyes are big and they're intense, right? So usually
Yeah,
you can feel it. And I also usually, I talk about like soft eye versus hard eye, and some,
sure.
just having them be soft and melty.
Mhm.
They're kind of relaxing. Their face is drooping. So
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
doggy grilled cheese, right? Easy.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yes. Yes.
Yep.
It's true. They're just melting versus tense.
Mhm.
And sometimes people call it the Botox look, where they're like, ah,
Right,
go
right.
back a bit.
Yeah. Some of us
So
want that, some of us don't. Yes.
yeah, exactly. So when it comes, so one of the other areas that I know that you specialize in is separation anxiety, and we had the pleasure of talking to Nick Hoff, one of our educators, a couple weeks ago, who's been around for quite some time with Family Pause, but also specializes in separation, and you're a part of that separation anxiety certification as well. And I think it's great. Our community, our dog training community, has several different niches where people can specialize in an area that they're really drawn to. Like for me, kids and dogs, great. Separation anxiety, I'm going to send them somewhere else.
Right.
So I think it's wonderful that we do have those resources, and we have a lot of our followers may not know about that. So what can you tell them about the separation anxiety program, and can you tell them how they can reach you, and what kinds of cases you typically see with that?
Sure. So you can reach me via my website at purelypositive.com. So that is one way. My number and my email address are there, or you can contact me through the website. And the separation anxiety clients I see, sometimes they're puppies. They're quite young. They're under 10 weeks of age, and
Wow.
we get started early. Um, the my newest client is 7 years old, and I'm going
That's
to
tough.
start working with him tomorrow. And so I think you can see separation anxiety in very young puppies, and sometimes it's hard to parse out, is that just we need to get some crate training and alone time training done because it's
Yep.
a young puppy, versus is it clinical separation anxiety. And so I do see puppies, I do see dogs that are middle-aged, and you can have late onset of separation anxiety, as I think you can with so many behavioral issues. So sometimes I work
Sure.
with geriatric dogs, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
mhm.
I'm sorry. So I was going to say, so with Nick and with me and other trainers who've been through the certification for separation anxiety, which is via Milena DiMartini Price. It's her program. I believe there's 100 of us in the world. We're
Mhm.
all trained to work virtually with clients. And most of my clients I don't ever meet in person. We do everything virtually. So can work with anyone anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's
I have had
wonderful.
clients. Yeah, yeah. And I know that you work with people all over the world too.
I do. I
Yeah,
do. And I
yeah.
find it as one of the things that's really exciting. I mean, whether you're working with someone in Italy or Alaska, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Because dogs, what I find is, especially when it comes to the dog and baby stuff, babies are babies and dogs are dogs. And so even though there might be cultural differences as far as, uh, especially things like success stations, there's definitely differences in different cultures. But we know dog behavior and baby behavior, at least to a certain point, is going to be rather predictable. So we can
Exactly.
offer similar suggestions and things across the board, which is really, really, really helpful when working with families.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, absolutely. I encourage people wherever they are to reach out.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
yes. So as we look at right now, these interesting times, right?
Hmm.
And just coming off of 4th of July weekend, where it wasn't so much separation anxiety, but it was 4th of July anxiety, fireworks and stuff.
Hmm.
To me, those two kind of have similar frustrations and similar challenges.
Right.
But as we prepare for what's ahead, and people maybe getting back to a normal, like kids going back to school, maybe you and I were talking about that. Are they going back? Are they not going back? I always find my dogs go through changes every single time we have a transition in my
Right.
house.
Right.
So I have 3 dogs and 5 cats, and we're thinking about guinea pigs, which
I love guinea pigs.
I
I
love
love guinea
pigs.
pigs.
I know, it's driving me crazy. I was looking at the SPCA yesterday at Wake County, and they had 2 5-month-olds, and I was thinking, oh, I don't want 2, because things
Right.
happen. They always misjudge who's male and female, and
Sure.
but anyway, I was just thinking, oh, but they were scooped up right away, so that was good.
It's good. Yeah.
But in our household, dynamics shift all the time. So
Right.
I have older children who come and go from college to a rising sixth grader who is now home all the time, and different activity levels. And now it's summer, so now it's so hot in North Carolina. No one wants to be outside, and there's mosquitoes, and it's nasty, and it's it's hot, humid, it's swampy here.
Mhm.
So all those changes lead to a lot of either more stability or instability for our dogs, because they really are masters at studying us, aren't they?
They are. They are.
We are their school. Like,
Yeah.
they know everything, and they know the suitcases. I know people say, oh, but they do know. In fact, when we went for a little trip, we went out of our way to strategize our timing to create the least amount of stress for our shepherd,
Yeah.
because he has been enjoying all of us home so much, and he does tend to get ramped up, and he does tend to get really worked up with leaving. And
Right.
so we really did everything we could to hide those symptoms and put him in his own space while we move things out.
Okay.
We did a lot of things to kind of calm down that leaving. I don't know how much it helped. I think it helped. He didn't have diarrhea all over my house when my pet sitter came, so that was fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that I know there's some things that I think I had to do, but
Right.
for general leaving, yeah, I mean, I know everybody's thinking about going back to work, or even
Right.
at this point going anywhere, and their dog's like, wait, we're here.
Exactly. Yeah. I noticed. So my husband has been at home since the first or second week of March.
Yeah.
He is in the hotel industry, and so he has not been working. Right. So he's been here, and from March to now, so it's July 7th or 8th, I think. It's somewhere in there today. So we did have a point where they were very much not themselves, and were stressed, and were difficult. So I have a 1.5-year-old Rottweiler, I have a 7-year-old Golden, and I have a almost 3-year-old Border Collie. So now they're in the flow of going to some not dog parks, but places to play with other dogs every day, or maybe going to the beach if it's not too hot.
Yeah.
So about 7 or 8 minutes from the beach. And so now they're in a good routine. But as you said, things are going to transition and change probably, and there will be a different routine, right? So I think if to prepare them for that, and just focusing for a moment on just people leaving the house, whether it's to go to the grocery store for an errand. If you're, I have clients and friends who are ordering groceries in. They're not even grocery shopping right now.
Mm-hmm.
So for those people, or for those families, I think you start with a family walk around the block without the dog every day.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not comfortable going out in public, I completely respect that and understand, and that's great. But you're going for a family walk every day, and you're leaving your dog at home. That might be crated, that might be in another containment space. It might not be either of those things, and they're at an age where you're going to leave them in the house, but it's leaving the house and going out.
Yes.
Sorry, table's shaking because the Rottweiler is scratching herself.
Oh, it's all right.
The laptop is moving too. So that's one place to start. That's what I've talked to most people about, because they're not leaving, or everyone is working at home.
Yes.
And they're not, and if they do go out, they're not going out with their entire family. So that's the first thing. I think that family walk, it's good for everybody, even when it's hot and buggy.
Yes.
And then working towards longer absences.
Right.
And I agree with you completely. Everybody has a smartphone probably, right? Or a tablet or a laptop. And whether you initiate a Skype or FaceTime call when you're home so that you're not, paying for data when you leave. Whether you're setting up your own Zoom meeting without another person on it, just recording your absence, it's pretty easy to assess how is your dog when you go, right? What are they doing? What are their behaviors?
What are they doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's really valuable. And once you have decided, okay, they're a little fussy at first, but they do settle pretty nicely and they're relaxed and calm when we get home. There's not been drooling. There's not been accidents. There's not been chewing. Chewing, you have to kind of decide, are they young and they're chewing? Are they chewing destructively because they're stressed? Like once you've gone through your list of behaviors and manifestations, then you can start to decide, right? What do I need to do from here?
Right. No, absolutely. And some of the signs, so I had a shepherd years ago who was just, oh my goodness, we adopted him and he had a lot of generalized anxiety, but boy, leaving him alone in the house, and I did a lot of video of it, and it was heartbreaking. It was seriously heartbreaking. Now he came a long way. We worked a lot, and we worked also with our vet about that. But he did manage, but he really struggled with that alone time. And I find a lot of people who are adopting dogs, they get their dog and they spend the weekend with them, and then maybe they go somewhere, off to work, or maybe they adopted a dog now,
right?
And they haven't yet left the house, and they don't quite know what to expect. We definitely encourage people to kind of test that out and start with those slow family walks to kind of gauge that. And I love the idea, and I'm a big fan of setting up the video camera to kind of assess.
Right.
Assess the situation and help to get kind of a baseline, of what's going on, in the first time, and seeing over time how that goes. So do you recommend someone leaving, like when they're getting ready to go, they give their dog a Kong, like right before they leave, or hide it in the house somewhere? Is that something you might recommend or not recommend, or what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I do. And I know I'll qualify that. I know in my work with Milena and how we work with dogs that we have assessed, and now we're working on separation anxiety. We're not using food and food dispensing toys or food stuffed toys in that work, because we are working towards rather the dog being able to relax
On its own, sort of, yeah.
Right, relax on their own. So that's a little bit different, but I think for most of us, including myself with my own dogs, it's like it's great to give them something to work on.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? They need something to occupy themselves, and they need that when they're alone, and alone when you're at home with them, right? And they're in a success station, and they need it when you're leaving the house too. There's not a thing in the world wrong with that. The licky mats I mentioned are not good to leave dogs alone with, because they can chew them, but they're
Totally chew them. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the bomb on 4th of July, right? So definitely use those, them. But I was with my dogs, and that.
And I cheat with licking mats. I do. I love whatever's around the house. So I often will use muffin trays and turn them upside down, and put peanut butter smeared all around, put kibble in it and different things in it, and freeze it, and then give them that. And that's a wonderful thing for families with toddlers who want to use paintbrushes or fingers to make a mess, and stick Cheerios. So yeah, no, it's totally a way to just make something easy and simple, and you can do it at any time, right? Just making sure the peanut butter doesn't have xylitol, or we want to make sure it's safe for the dogs. But yeah, no, those are great tips. And so if there were a family walk, getting the dogs used to the leaving, just a regular short amount of time, setting that up, having a little video camera to see what's going on. And so if someone runs into their dog is drooling and pacing and whining and going from window to, I'm very vividly recalling my shepherd.
Right.
When I walked up the street, it was drooling, pacing, whining. It was heavy breathing. It was high-pitched barking, yiping, howling,
Yeah.
you know, all that stuff that when I watched it, it just made me cry. I mean, I actually deleted the videos because I just couldn't, he was in such a state.
I mean, it's
There was a
painful.
pool of drool, and it's painful to watch because he really is panicking, right? He
Right.
really, really was panicking. If you notice that, what are your suggestions for that person? People can get very frustrated, and separation anxiety can be a very frustrating thing because people might feel trapped, confined, that they're never going to have a life again, that they can't go anywhere, that's it for vacations, right? It can really snowball for people as far as the stress that they can feel too, right?
Right.
They create anxiety. It creates anxiety for you leaving the house, doesn't it?
I mean, probably both our chests are tightening right now just talking about it, right?
Right.
Because when we empathize with them. Yeah, I think if we can all have a moment of putting ourselves in our dog's paws, so to speak. I'm sorry to be so corny, but it's fun to be corny sometimes. Yeah,
Corny's
and
good.
really, yeah, and then really focusing on how it feels for them in a physical sense and an emotional sense, and helping them have the language just to share that with their partners or spouses or friends or family members. Because so often people will say, well, my husband or my wife or my partner or my friend or my mom or my dad just says, they just need to get used to it. They just need to get over it. They just need to handle it. Yeah. And I don't think, as with most of us with a panic attack, we can't just push through, right? Having multiple panic attacks does not necessarily beget calm behavior, right? Or helping cope with a situation. And so many times when I was working through my certification, we talked about, and we can all, remember that movie scene in Temple of Doom where Indiana Jones is in that pit of snakes, right? So we don't get used to snakes by being thrown into a pit of snakes.
No,
we need to have
gradual.
Exactly. So we need to have gradual exposure to snakes. So we need to have so our dogs need to have gradual, exposure to departures, right? So what that will mean then, and so there is hope that our dogs can get better, but they need gradual departures, so that they can work up to a real, a meaningful amount of time, whether that's 2 hours where you run errands or you go to work for the day. Right.
And
so it's really gradual.
Mm-hmm. And for many of our families, like we're also talking about trying to have our dogs get used to separation in a success station while we're still in the house.
Exactly.
And for many of our dogs, that in itself is enough to be quite a challenge. And so I was talking to, I have several people with toddlers. They've not really practiced separation on the other side of a barrier. And for some dogs, that is a major struggle and challenge and needs to take time. And my suggestions were we start with even you're sitting with your back up against the barrier and, you kind of very gradually, over a period of time are able to move away. Sometimes it may involve, obviously, where we can supervise them, a licky mat, a food dispensing treat, something like that. Sometimes we might use treat and train. There's a lot of different things that we can implement there, but it can be as much of a struggle with the separation when we need separation in the home because we're going to have a mobile baby. And I think a lot of people wait. One of my my dogs are making a ruckus.
No worries.
Yeah, that would be Oliver shaking like the lights upstairs. Yeah, he's a big boy. One of the things that I recommend to any family that's expecting is that my husband came down and said, should I let the dogs down? And I said, no, now they're wrestling upstairs. It sounds like my ceiling's going to fall in. So one of the things that I recommend most of all is when families are expecting is that they begin success stations. They begin having short periods of separation while they're still in the house, because that can be one of the hardest challenges for our families. When I reach a family that has a 10-month-old child who's motoring around. And now the family's like, oh my gosh, how do we manage this? And the dog is uncomfortable. I'm like, well, we need to have gates. We need to have play yards. We need to have dividers. We need to have separation.
Right.
And that can be really, really, really difficult and lead to a lot of whining and a lot of frustration, versus having that opportunity to gradually expose dogs to shorter periods of time, being independent
Yes.
in a success station prior to when, here they come, prior to when we need it.
Yeah.
There's the wild man. So it's, hope that wasn't as loud as it was for me. But so that's something also too that maybe you could speak to just a little bit about how we can begin those internal barriers and confinements while we're still in the house.
Yeah, I think it's starting with just the merest moment of being separated, right? Just a moment of being behind the gate, or or whatever. And I know that you have excellent graphics and information on your site, right, about success stations. But whatever the setup the person is choosing to doing, just starting with that tiny increment of time, and that might be 5 seconds or 10 seconds. It might be 30. That sounds like a little bit.
I know.
It will build. It will build.
Yeah.
I find too, definitely as of late, working on, just as a little corny, but just as a sort of a placeholder, we I call it treasure hunt or gotta get it, like having the gate. It's not particularly original, but just so we all can remember, having the gate shut or having the crate door shut, and having maybe it's a Kong zip tied into the crate, so they have to. So they really want to get in there and get it. Maybe it's under a blanket, or wedging the Kong in there. But for me, just being kind of breathy and excited, and said, oh, "Are you ready? Ready? Are you ready?" And the gate, my dogs are they're both lifting.
They're like, "We're ready."
Yeah, they're like, "What are we doing?" Asking for trouble. I'm about to get probably. But making the dog is like peppy and excited, and they're like, "Oh, what is it? What's in there?" And then ready. Get it, and opening that crate door, that pen door, letting them rush in and get it, and not locking them in and not tricking them, but just oh, it's so exciting to get in there. I think working on those things, hiding things in the crate so that as they walk, or the gated area, so as they walk by during the day, they want to get in there and find it, because often there's treasures in there. I think teaching them to go, which again with treats, like teaching them to go into that space on command. Like I was laughing with my clients on July 4th that I was working with. I said, well, I said, let's teach your dog to go to this space. And they said, well, we've done that, which was fabulous. But their cue is go to your closet. They were laughing about it. They were a little embarrassed. It's a mudroom, in their house, but they call it the closet. And actually their dog, which is fabulous, his name is Cricket. Cricket knows how to go into the closet. It's not, it sounds awful, but it's not, so he's excited to go in there because they've trained it with food. Sure. He's happy enough to go, and it just saves the day sometimes.
Well, we have a Cavalier Castle and a Shepherd Chateau.
I love that.
Rudy goes to his castle. It's so much better than your crate or whatever. Yeah, and I do tell families too. A lot of people think when you talk about management, you talk about success stations. The whole reason I started success stations because people were like, I don't want to put my dog in a crate. All right, well, what would make you feel more comfortable about that? And what if I told you that is a place where your dog is guaranteed to succeed, has less options to fail. And so that's really what made that a thing. And so, starting to use it, and oh yeah, that's what I want. I want my dog to be successful. All right, well, what does that look like? And let's talk about that. And let's define what a success station for your dog looks like. And so, that's really where we went. And I do the same thing. I might shred up like hot dog really fine and put it in the middle of the crate, close the door, and just ignore it. And dog's like, ooh, I want, what's in there? Yeah. And, and eventually over time, like, you really want that? You really want in? And that way leaving the door open, but they're starting to go, this is a cool place and magic things happen in here. Wow, I might want to go there. Or with some families, even with the gate, I might pair the gate with gate equals treat, gate equals treat. Here's the gate, treat, And then gate set up equals, sometimes we have to go that route with some dogs, depending on what their previous experience has been. Maybe the gate fell, maybe we need a new gate. I mean, that's one of those things. Sometimes gates are clunky and can make a lot of noise, which can mean that the dog is actually fearful of that and not having separation anxiety, but is more like, that gate's scary, I don't want to be around it.
Yes. Right, or I just don't want to go in the crate. And I think when you teach kennel up or crate up or go to your chateau or whatever, go to your condo, whatever the cue is, I think it takes out the emotional component a little bit, right? It just becomes another skill they're using. And then and I find that helps so much.
Yeah.
Right. Then they're just able to go in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I want to wrap it up. It's been obviously the animals are waking up and getting restless here.
Yes.
So, but I miss talking to you. It's been a while, and so it was really good to catch up today. What lasting tips? Do you have any tips for families that, come here, Sadie, that you would like to leave people with? Any thoughts? Anything you'd like to say, or how they can get a hold of you and that kind of thing?
Sure. Again, I'm purelypositive.com, and I just think to, reach out anytime if you have questions. And I think just to reiterate, start with that family walk every day. I know it's hot. I mean, where I am, it is in the 90s and it's incredibly humid, right?
Yeah,
so
it is.
Tropical storm out there. So it's nice and damp out. So like a sponge outside.
Yeah.
So it's, but I think it's so important. And if you have a puppy or a young adult dog, then continue your socialization. I know I'm a little off topic now, but you can take them places in the car. You can do social distancing at shopping centers. You can do, in our area, you can go to places like Lowe's. I find they're being very careful. So I know it does depend on your comfort level and your personal, family situation in terms of whether or not you want to go out. But I think all of us can find a way to do it safely.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Right.
I think people forget. Short and sweet sessions of socialization are critical.
Mm-hmm. I think that socialization exposure piece, I have a lot of people who are concerned about there not being enough puppy group classes right now, but there is so much that you can do on your own. So much you can even do noise exposure at home. There's a lot you can do without going into a group class. So don't forget about that.
Absolutely.
That's important. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that there's lots of information that we talked about today that people will find super helpful. And don't wait so long for us to be in touch. And tell the kids hi. And I look forward to connecting to you another time. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate it.